Good morning, my Algebra 2A peeps. We're going to go through 8-7 today, radical functions, and kind of looking at graphs of square root and cube root functions, talking about domain and range. So, x squared and the square root of x are inverses of each other, as are x cubed and the cube root of x. So, when we're looking at these radical functions, the square root of x and the cube root of x, we're just going to kind of look at their graphs and talk about domain and range a little bit. So if you were to graph this in your calculator, you could see the original square root function and then x minus 3 inside. So that's going to be like a transformation of 3 units to the right. So that's going to look like that if you were to graph that on your calculator. Okay? There's a different color here that we can see. That would look like that as you graph it on your calculator. Okay? So for the domain, it's always going to be to the right here. It's always going to be x is greater than or equal to 3. For the range, which is y is, it never goes below 0, so y is greater than or equal to 0. Okay, remember, domain is your left and right, range is your up and down. Okay, so you can graph these on the TI or on Desmos. For the cube root function, 2 times the cube root of x minus 2. I graph that over here for us, and it looks like this. Okay, the cube root and the square root are easy for domain and range to decipher the difference. So for the domain and range, on the cube root, by the way, the cube root button on your TI calculator, if you hit math, and then 4, just go down to number 4, there's where the cube root button is. Anyway, domain and range. Domain and range. Well, the domain, the x, that's nothing. For the cube root, both the domain and the range are going to be all real numbers. You can take the cube root of any number. You can take the cube root of a positive number or a negative number. The square root is where you're going to have to decipher domain and range, because you cannot take the square root of a negative number. So let's try that again here. So if we graph this on Desmos or on our TI, the square root of x plus 1. Well, that's going to be moved to the left 1, and it's going to look like the square root function. It's going to look something like that on your calculator when you take a picture of it. Then you think about domain. Well, domain is going to be from negative 1 all the way to the right. So x is greater than or equal to negative 1. Range, well, the range, the up and down, it never goes below 0. So your range is going to be y is greater than or equal to 0. Okay? So domain and range, remember for square root, you got to kind of look at the picture and think left, right for domain, up, down for range. Cube root, domain and range, all real numbers. Easy peasy. Okay, transformations again with these square root functions, all the same. These are in your book on section 8-7. I encourage you to look those up or take a picture of them with your phone so you got them while we're going through this, or while you're going through the worksheet or taking the quiz, but you'll have access to those. Just remember that inside the square root, that's going to be our horizontal stuff. All right, let's give it a whirl. Using the graph as a guide, describe the transformation. Well, we've got the square root of x plus 5 outside. Graph came up already, but we can see that that would be up 5. All you got to do is describe that for me. Okay? What about here? Square root of x plus 1. Well, that would be outside. You can see the graph. Here's the original in blue. That would be up 1 outside the parentheses. Okay? Half times x, well, that's times the square root of x. Well, that's a vertical compression of 1/2, multiplying outside the function. Okay? So, all of your transformations are in here. A is vertical stretch or compression. 1 over b is your horizontal stretch or compression. Inside those there, plus and minus is going to be left and right. And then plus k outside is going to be up and down. This is all in your book in section 8-7. So let's just describe all what we've got going on here. Okay, negative outside, what's that? X-axis reflection. X minus 4 inside, what's that? Right 4. That's it. Doing the same things that we've always done with our transformations. Okay? So you can see it's right 4 and flipped over the x-axis. Let's try that again. Negative inside the square root times x is going to be y-axis reflection. And plus 3 outside is going to be up 3. Just list the transformation. That's all you got to do. Okay? And if you want to graph it on Desmos and see what it looks like, go nuts. And let's do one more. Ooh, we got 3 things cooking here. A negative, a 3, and then a minus 1 outside. So we got 1, 2, 3. Let's start with the negative. Well, a negative outside means x-axis reflection. Then this 3, we ignore the negative sign. That is a vertical stretch of 3. Minus 1 outside, down 1. Okay? 3 things going on. Describe all the transformations. Those are the types of things you're going to see on your worksheet. And then you can graph it on Desmos or on your calculator if you want to see it. Okay? All right. Let's do one more. Let's go back and do that last one. Now they're going to give us what to do, and we're going to write the function. All right. So we're going to start here. Square root of x is reflected across the x-axis, stretched vertically by a factor of 2, and translated 1 unit to the left. Okay, reflection across the x-axis means we start with a negative sign. Stretched vertically by a factor of 2, that means we multiply the outside by 2. Translated 1 unit left. Well, that's horizontal, so that goes in here. That's going to be bizarro, so that's going to be x plus 1. X-axis reflection, vertical stretch of 2, left 1. Okay? So check those transformation rules in 8-7 in your book and go from there. All right, so I encourage you to follow along, get your Desmos, get your calculator. You'll have the worksheet to go through. I'll have the key for you. But make sure you know how to do those transformations and kind of identify what domain and range are. All right, have a good rest of your day. Stay healthy and safe. We will talk to you next time. Peace.